Really mean to go vegan, and it sounds so strange, but I hadn't even thought about it. And in fact, we'd had a friend stay, in fact my son's girlfriend, a couple of weeks before I went vegan randomly, and I just thought, what am I going to feed her? I went to the local shop and I said to someone, I said, look, I've got this vegan coming, I don't know what I'm going to feed her. I said, I don't know what I'm going to feed her. It's mental. And so I was making these really weird concoctions of avocado and whatever on toast, and which obviously I love now, but I was just didn't know what to feed her. It's like this alien was coming. It was just and luckily the guy in the supermarket said, well, I'm vegan, so I can guide you. I remember buying things like stuffed vine leaves, thinking she'd like that. And it was just weird. It was like an alien person was coming. And then a couple of weeks later, literally, I was out with my husband and we were having a drink, and we thought, we'll pick up the dog and go to the pub. And my dog got a stick stuck in her mouth, and it looked like she'd done herself some damage, but it was nothing. So 1 o'clock in the morning, we'd moved to a new house. So we're trying to find a vet at 1 in the morning. My husband's not happy. He's in tears. He'd hate me saying that, but it was true. And I'm like, so the vet says, it's going to be hundreds of pounds to even bring her down. So I thought, no, nothing's too much money for my dog. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let's just get her down there. So I'm prepared to spend, thousands of pounds. It's 1 in the morning, got a crying husband, get there. And they say, it's just a stick in her mouth, and we take it out. But I get back home and, I took chicken out the freezer, and I was like, why am I taking chicken out the freezer? And it was like a light bulb went on. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to spend £300 on my dog, but then I'm taking chicken out the freezer, and it was instant. And I was like, what am I doing? This is so strange. So I instantly put the chicken in the bin, and then just went to bed. And then I got up in the morning and I thought, something's happened to me. And I got up quite early, and I started looking at the internet, thinking what's veganism? What's happened to me? I've had this light bulb moment. And Joey Carbstrong was quite big in the news at the time, and he'd been on Jeremy Paxman's show. And Jeremy Paxman had put a ham sandwich out just to provoke him and stuff. So I started listening to a bit of Joey Carbstrong, and then I listened to Gary Yourofsky's The Best Speech Ever. And so this is all really early in the morning, and about 8:30 in the morning, maybe 9:30, my husband got up and I said, I've gone vegan. And he's like, oh, right, okay. And 8 years before, I'd found that I actually went sober because I'd started drinking too much. I work hard, and I'd started I don't know, 12 o'clock at night, I was still having a big glass of wine. So he knows that if I do something, I sort of do it. I went vegan, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to eat. I didn't even like vegetables. So I was like, right, I'm going to live on a plate of salad. So then started the quest. So I sort of go gung-ho into stuff. So by lunchtime, I thought, right, here's some meal plans I could do. I think I discovered the stingy vegan first. I think it was pot meals,
right,
food on a budget sort of thing. And I thought her stuff or their stuff was great. So literally by about 10:30, 11 in the morning, I'd listen to some earth-shattering stuff. I'd watch some horrific videos that I had never seen before. And I thought, why is it taking me 50 years to actually get with the plan? But literally it came out of my dog having an accident, taking chicken out of the freezer, and I think about what if I'd taken it out at a different time? What if it hadn't made that connection? But that's exactly what happened. I didn't mean to go vegan. And that's sort of when I look at other people, I just always think that you never quite know what's going to be that thing that makes them do it, or is the last thing that tips them over. But mine was a completely random light bulb moment.
Looking back, do you think your vegan visitor who you were trying to get stuffed vine leaves for and stuff, do you think there was something in either what they said or just their very presence that kind of registered something in the back of your mind, and it kind of was then unlocked by the incident with your dog?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I remember asking her, I remember saying, what is it about veganism that what is it? Tell me. And I remember that she couldn't quite explain, but it was something to do with dairy. I remember her trying to explain that she'd gone vegan for something to do with dairy. But I remember her not being able to explain in a nutshell. And it's quite often like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really difficult to explain in like a quick sound bite. But I'd expected her to give me this quick sound bite of like, 1 second why I should go vegan. But obviously that had set about me thinking about it. Because of her, I'd started looking at, like diet stuff and meal stuff. So yeah, maybe the catalyst was her coming. And also she was really gorgeous. I know it sounds really weird, but not just gorgeous physically, but just like a really kind soul. She was a very gentle person. So I think maybe that had an impact on me as well. She was a very gentle person.
Do you think that kind of not being able to articulate it in a soundbite, do you think that's something that's stuck with you as a bit of a mission statement in your own how you show up, or do you just accept it's complex and it's too difficult to do that?
I have this feeling that we're all going to go vegan, like for different reasons, like that might be my happy heart always full sort of thing. But I think that I know so many people who are still staunch meat eaters, but, maybe they're coming at it from like the cruelty-free beauty to start off with, just as a start. Our thing at Vegan Happy is always about kindness. It's always about, understanding and compassion and like just understanding that people's journeys might be very different. But yeah, I mean, like I keep trying to think, is there a vegan like soundbite? Is there like a one-liner? And there just isn't. It's such a complex issue. So I think we just come at it from compassion. But I wish I had that soundbite. I wish I had that like the one-liner that would just get everyone. We keep thinking there's like one video that will make people change or one advert. And of course it's so complex. So we just try and look at it from complete compassion, complete kindness, and try and guide people if we can. But I think she probably did. She probably did more than she realised. I thought about reaching out to her since. It's a bit tricky because it's my son's ex-girlfriend, so I haven't done it. But I keep thinking about reaching out to think maybe like you actually probably did plant the seed with me. So after this, I'll probably do that.
Did the rest of the family go with you?
So my husband went that day. So I reached out to some friends that were vegans on Facebook, and I said, look, something weird's happened. I think I've gone vegan. I just don't know what to do. And they said, listen to What the Health, watch What the Health, and Dominion. So that night we watched, because I stupidly thought I could still cook for my husband. I said to him, don't worry, I've gone vegan, but I'll still make you steak. I'll still make your chicken. You won't have a disruption. And then that night, stupidly thinking, and then that night we watched What the Health, and my husband's very health conscious. So within 5 minutes, he had said, right, well, I'm vegan now. Like literally within 5 minutes, he said, I can't eat it for health. We're now very much vegan for the animals, but it didn't start out like that, which is why I've got this understanding of the journey. He very much health conscious, he's 50. He's very conscious that he wants to live a long life. He watches his, his shape and this sort of stuff. So he says, right, well, I've gone vegan now. And then of course we watched Dominion after, cried from like the first minute through the whole thing. And which was literally that stake that drove through my heart that's never left. So if ever there'd been any element that wasn't a vegan, by the end of Dominion, I was ruined. I was just ruined. I think it's the most powerful thing I've ever seen for me. Sorry, I'm actually getting quite emotional thinking about it.
Yeah.
In the filmmakers that make that should be completely applauded. So for me, Dominion and What the Health were the things that clinched my husband. And it took my daughter, our daughter is now vegan, and we've had our first vegan grandchild. So even in the womb, she's only ever known vegan stuff. She's on vegan formula now. She's now on obviously vegan, home cooked food. But it took my daughter a year, and she transitioned with, the typical stuff like, the burgers and pizzas and what have you. But she's now, proper home cooked food. She just like lives on vegetables, doesn't like processed stuff. Saying that, we did have a burger last night. We did have a Beyond Meat burger last night. But, like she's just super healthy, managed to navigate a whole pregnancy with midwives and health visitors telling her, we're really worried about you. You're going to get in trouble, malnourished children, and, the baby now, on the checks is, the highest percentile in height, like picture perfect. They used her scans as like, benchmarks of how a healthy heart should look. So, as it goes, it's
She's
all good.
Doing all right.
Yeah. So she was within a year. So all four of us in the house now are vegan. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'd totally relate to the health visitors and midwives and all that kind of conversation. Our little one was vegan in the womb, and same sort of thing. Lots of concern. Remember a GP saying to my wife Kate, "Yeah, you can't breastfeed and be vegan." Like, just literally, like, matter of fact, it was a statement. And Kate did breastfeed, and he was a chunky little boy and healthy, and he's lovely, and yeah, perfect. So yeah, there's definitely some outdated beliefs in that, and it's more power to your daughter and for holding firm through that, because I think there's kind of one thing, isn't it, with your own health, you kind of think, well, my morals can they override any potential health detriments, although we all know there's lots of benefits, but it does feel like the stakes get higher when you have a little one involved. So yeah, more power to her.
Yeah, and to yours as well.
So your feelings on Dominion and so on have sort of sparked a question in me. The way you show up is incredibly positive, very happy. The business is literally in the name, in Vegan Happy Clothing. Has it always been the case that you've shown up with that positivity, that you've seen that as the path into communicating your veganism to others, or have you gone through those stages like are perfectly natural? We all do, where sort of you almost feel angry at the beginning. If I think about the Joey Carbstrong often gets criticised for that, leading with that. It's then turned around in many of his sort of videos, but leading with the kind of like the shock and the anger kind of tactic to get people thinking differently. How did you find that kind of process of working your way through those difficult emotions?
It's a very good question. Yeah, so when I went vegan, and again, I didn't mean to really set up a vegan clothing company. Like, my background is not in retail at all. My background's in marketing. So, but I just had this overwhelming feeling that I'd seen the light, and I wanted to tell everyone. There's a joke, isn't there, about a vegan, that a vegan will tell you they're coming like 5 minutes before they're even there, or something. I don't know what it is, but and that everyone knows you're a vegan, and we tell everyone and this sort of stuff. But I was super proud that I'd finally, after 50 years, actually got the message. But then I thought it was about conversations. I thought, it's all about sparking conversation. And what I felt would resonate with me would be like a softer logo. So all the things I could see at the time, and I've got to say, this is a very much generalized view of at the time. This is 5 years ago. Clothing has come on so much more now. So all I could see at the time were things like T-shirts with a man with a dagger on top of a cow and things like this. And they've definitely got that place, and I've got that stuff. But for me, I was still going to meetings. I still wanted to go out. But wherever I went, I wanted to wear something that someone would ask me. Oh, I didn't know you were vegan, or whatever. So our logos. I look at all the logos I like, like All Saints and all those sort of things. They're all Jack Wills. They're all subtle. They're all small. So I thought, we will design something monochrome, something subtle. So our logo's deliberately designed so it's almost not unobtrusive, but, it's just there. But people do notice it. But, it goes on like suit jackets. It goes on like, I don't know, on clothing you wouldn't really expect. It's like I've worn one in the boardroom. I had a meeting the other day and I took it off and I had a T-shirt on and someone asked me about it. So, it's designed for that sort of stuff, really. A lot of our customers get stopped in supermarkets. Like, I've been asked about winter salad dressings more times than I can imagine. I don't know anything about winter salads.
Really?
But yeah, so it was more like, it was just there, really. So people, could wear it on, a much wider range rather than just like the activism T-shirts. So for me, yeah, it's all about veganism. For me is all about positivity. It's all about, seeing the light, helping others see the light, helping make change. sparking conversations, thought seeds, and like almost like you look at like the seedling thing. I think like I look up vegan on Emojipedia, and it comes up with a seedling. And that's a really good analogy for it, I think, because veganism's like, like a tree going to grow. Because when you first start out, you don't really know anything. And then you like learn more, and you learn so much more about nutrition. Like people talk about deficits about nutrition, but, if you actually are, if you look, I mean, I've just done a nutrition course as well, because, I'm very conscious that, I'm getting on a bit, I'm 58 now, I want to make sure that I have all those micronutrients. And there's such small things that we can do, but, so it's like this little seedling that grows into a tree. And that's what I look at it like. But for no, Vegan Happy is all about being positive. It's all about, positive change, and veganism, it's about animals, but it's about the world, isn't it? It's about the impact we have on the world, about, treading more carefully, being kinder to people. One of our messages is devoted to kindness, that's how we feel. But talking about like the angry part of me, I didn't really get the angry part. My husband has still got it. He got it at the beginning and he hasn't really got rid of it. He's just got that anger that people won't change. I've got incredible sadness. I've got this incredible sadness that, one, it took me so long, that won't leave me. Like, again, I'm getting a little bit emotional saying this, but incredible sadness that, that the world's not waking up quick enough. Like how are we still doing this to animals when we know, like, you're such a strong, vibrant human being that lives on vegetables. I'm a strong, vibrant human being that lives on vegetables. We don't need to do this torture anymore. So I've got this incredible sadness. So I sort of like, my outlet is I set up something called Exposing Cruelty. I've got a beagle at home. I've always had beagles, and we donate 10% or more to animal rescue, and it's a lot more. I've still not taken a salary out of Vegan Happy, and we've been going 5 years. So my husband goes mad at me. I keep giving the money away. I keep giving the money away, or we'll invest it, sort of thing. But a customer said to me, an amazing customer said, who's a really big activist, said, have you heard of like something called Camp Beagle? And we got involved in Camp Beagle because they're using beagles in vivisection, and we know that over 90% of animal testing just fails. It's just 2,000 beagles a year wasted for no reason. And 3 million other animals a year. So, it's, the beagles are the drop in the ocean, but that's what resonated with me. And I think, most of us have got dogs at home. So I think that, beagles are the conduit to getting people to look at vivisection. Yeah. So I set up Exposing Cruelty almost as my outlet, if that makes sense, to, vent my frustration, vent my anger. At the moment we're calling labs and the government murderers, because they are murderers. So, I get to use my expletives and my, my strong words on them. And, certainly there's a lot to be angry about. If you're a vegan, there's a lot to be angry about. The world isn't waking up. We did activism last weekend in London, and the amount of people, we did engage with some amazing people, but the amount of like ignorance and the amount of just, I can't be bothered, is apathy is the main thing that is just so upsetting. And as we know, it's not just about the animals, it's about getting the world to wake up about, so many things, climate change, poverty, homelessness in London, do you know what I mean, in the world, in the UK, we've got people dying on the streets, and I think for me, veganism is about the animals, of course it is, but it's about like being a better human, it's about the whole thing for me, it's made me a better human, a kinder human, it's about more. So my anger was really sadness, and it won't leave me. It's like it's a layer of me that won't go. But I work with Exposing Cruelty, and that I really feel that vivisection is going to end, in the UK. It's stopped in America. It's stopped in Europe. Surely the next government's got to do something to help it stop. So I'm hoping. But yeah, that's why I farm it into Exposing Cruelty, and there I can say and do what I like.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did Vegan Happy start? When did you found it?
Over 5 years ago, in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was that quite shortly after you went vegan then?
Yeah, really short. A couple of months.
So did you get
maybe weeks.
Did you have a fairly immediate sense for a couple of weeks? Did you have a fairly immediate sense that you needed to do more than just your own personal actions?
Yeah, so I'm quite impulsive, and I just felt instantly it wasn't enough. So what we say at Vegan Happy is that it is about like we keep our prices really low. Like we could make much more. Like we've got some robes at the moment that are £100. These all weather robes. They're £100 under equivalence, and the reason being is it's so important to us to have those messages out there, and we see it as our activism, part of our activism. The more messages out there, the more activism there is, the more conversations that are happening. And it was really important. I mean, it started out really selfishly that I couldn't find what I wanted to wear, and with my marketing side, we used to do merchandise like cups and hoodies and things like that. So I thought, I wonder if I could just do some of that stuff for me. And then I thought, I'm just going to set up a little shop. And I designed a wick shop, excuse me, which is still going to this day. And I literally did it over a week. So I think it was weeks after I'd gone vegan. And I just thought, yeah, I needed to do more. And I think that's what I feel at the moment. Like my family do say to me, you need to stop and you need to have a weekend, but there's so much to be done. There's so much to be done. There's so much to be done. Sorry.
Talking of more to be done and talking of what you've done recently, so you had a competition, I'm right in saying. Tell us about that whole competition and the winners and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so we had another idea, which was to find the face of Vegan Happy. So apparently when you have a brand, because I never expected to have a fashion brand, never expected to have a what's called a brand ever. Here we are 5 years later and we're still going, and we're like completely in shock and completely hugely grateful to the people that support us. So we thought, well, we better get serious about this. And apparently what you're meant to do is to develop brand personas, which is try and sum up in people who your brand would be. For example, would I be Margot, who's like 55 and likes going to the shops or whatever? So I thought, well, why don't we just find our brand? So the idea was to find our brand, find people that embody what we feel Vegan Happy is. So we had some age brackets. So our age range really for demographics is probably middle 35 to 55, predominantly women. So we thought, we want to find 18 to 30, 31 to 50, and then 50 plus. And we didn't just look for looks, we looked for, it was completely open to any gender, any race, any size. We wanted completely the whole spectrum if we could find it. So what came back was over 700 entries.
Wow.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. So we were lucky enough to have Juliet Gallatley, founder of Viva, Holly Johnson, editor of Vegan Food and Living, Karen Ridges, who's basically has a PR company that only works for ethical brands. And we had Heather Small, who's the voice of M People, who people don't know, she's been vegan for over 30 years. So we had some amazing judges, but we had 700 entries. So it was just ridiculous to, even try and whittle it down. It took, I think, 4 judging layers. It was just crazy. Because obviously we're not just looking for pretty faces. We're looking for, I don't know, I call it a light inside them. We found everyone we chose had a light, and we didn't know what we were looking for, but it jumped at us. So everyone we chose has a light, an inner light. Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. What a cool thing. So you've found them now, and so what's next for them? They will be incorporated into the business in terms of they'll show up on your socials and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So instantly what they do is they get a huge bundle of gifts, so they can go into the website and choose their bundles. So they got immediately hundreds of pounds worth of goodies. We've got a massive feature coming up in Voo magazine, which is a fashion magazine. So for a high fashion magazine to feature a vegan story is, and the editor of the magazine is Corinne Studdenham-Finn, I think, is they're actually not vegan,
right, and
neither is the photographer Shane Finn. So for them to feature, I think we've got 10 pages in it, which is
wow.
It's a high fashion non-vegan magazine. It's just outstanding what they did. But she said she'd never actually been touched so much by a story. So, again, that's planting thought seeds and things like that. So we've got a massive feature in Voo magazine. And what we do is we cross collaborate. So, for example, yesterday, on Vegan Happy, we really try and keep things positive. But yesterday I shared, one of our winners is Antonia Willans, who actually is one of the actresses that feature in a lot of the Viva adverts.
Right.
She's been, I don't know if you've seen it, but she's doing such amazing activism where they're working with speciesism.wtf, where they're hooked up as milking machines, women hooked up as milking machines.
Yeah, I've seen
and
this.
they're like an art installation outside art galleries. We reshared that because Antonia was one of the women in this in the installation. We tend to keep things really positive, but that's such powerful activism. We shared it. So what we do is we cross collaborate and we cross share. Another one, Annette Wardell, who is the chief solo sopranoist at the English National Opera. Talk about superstar.
Wow.
She did something at a place called Dr. Legumes in Folkestone last week, and we support her. So we did all the clothing for the crew. We did aprons and t-shirts so that she can shine there, and the crew's all kitted out with staff, and so we're doing like quite a lot of cross collaboration, and something that's new, and they all got advent calendars and it got to Christmas and they're all going to get Christmas gifts and things like this. But what they don't know, which is actually going to be revealed on your show, on your podcast, is we're not going to have a Face of Vegan Happy again. They are so amazing. They're going to be lifelong ambassadors. So we're actually going to stay with them because we actually feel like we've created a family, and I don't want to get rid of my family. So everyone that's actually already in the family, we will keep. And we'll work with them. They're such amazing activists. They're such amazing people that we're actually not going to run it again. We're going to work with them as lifelong ambassadors. That's
amazing.
That's news. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool and good on them. And it sounds like you've got some real kind of like some real diversity in terms of their interests and their passion points and the way they show up in their activism. And yeah, it sounds very cool. I'm going to be chatting to some of them on the show, so I'm kind of really looking forward to that. That'd be awesome. I've got a question about Vegan Happy more broadly, and that's around like you mentioned you're obviously from a marketing background, hadn't necessarily been in the kind of retail world and so on, and fashion is littered with environmental challenges, the fast fashion elements and so on, and animal products showing up in different parts of supply chains where even sometimes the buyers and the companies selling them can't necessarily they can't necessarily specify whether something's had an animal product in it and so on and so forth. How have you found navigating those choppy waters of the fashion world with a vegan ethical brand like Vegan Happy?
Yeah, it's really difficult. So when we started, all we could do was go with PETA approved products. So everything we did was just like PETA approved, and we thought, right, well, they've done that work for us. And still a lot of our range now, we only do PETA approved products. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, we started making some of our own stuff. We don't make a lot of our own stuff. We do make some of our own stuff. And then that's a whole new ball game, which takes about 18 months of like research and work. And, we probably get like 30 emails a day saying, can we work with you? But, my first question is, oh yeah, can you make me a leather jacket? And they say, oh yeah, of course you can. And I say, well, block. So that's always my question. Is like, yeah, I'm looking for leather jackets. And it just weeds people out. So if anyone, and then we started looking at collectives and factories that only work with sustainable brands. They only do sustainable stuff, which is where we're at now. But it is really difficult. We've got an all-weather robe at the moment that's produced in a sustainable factory, but even for us, that still has an element of microplastic in it, which we're not happy about. It's the only way to make it waterproof, but it's not perfect. But there's still like, no, it's a completely vegan process. It's a sustainable factory, and the whole supply chain, it comes straight to me, we're 100% vegan. we have an outside decoration company as well, and they only use vegan, like, inks and vegan materials. And I actually, they completely went vegan as a result of us. So,
wow.
yeah, so like they were using some, silk elements, and now they don't. So yeah, the whole supply chain is 100% vegan, but it is difficult because, you're always faced with like mounting costs, and things like that, like we run at like not great margin, but like I say, it's really important that we've got those messages out there, and also, like, money's tight right now. People haven't got the money, we'd rather have something out there than make a huge amount of profit and go on holiday. Do you know what I mean? Sort of thing. But no, the supply chain is difficult. So we started out with just choosing PETA approved products because it was the only way that we knew that it was guaranteed to be checked out, if you like. It is difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of the design of the products, I mean, like you say, simplicity's the kind of the key with the logo and so on and so forth. How have you gone about that process? Like, is it in-house design? Do you commission folks? How does it work?
I mean, I'd love to find a designer. Here's a shout out. I'd love to find a designer we could work with. I mean, this is one that I've got on at the moment, which is, I don't know if you can see it, which is our vegan happy original sort of thing.
Yeah, really nice.
That's sort of like the furthest we go, and like devoted to kindness are like big logos. We did do like some graffiti stuff. I quite like the whole graffiti style. That's going to make a re-emergence. I'm not quite sure it's right for our demographic, but I'm going to try and push for it. But yeah, we'd love to like work with some good, fresh young designers on some designs. But at the moment, it's pretty much in-house. People we know. I've got a designer on my marketing side anyway that we work with, but we're not edgy designers. I'd love to find a young fresh designer that would like to work with us. That would be awesome. We did reach out before, but nothing really came of it. But we'd love to work with some fresh young designers. And the clothing, some of it again, it's still PETA manufactured, so the styling, we deliberately choose things that look classic, and we also pick things that are going to last. What we don't want is fast fashion that's going to fall apart. That is not what we want. We want things that are going to wash well, wear well. It's really important to us that people can buy these things and they're going to be here in 5 years' time. I'm still wearing a jacket, one of our snowbird jackets that I bought 5 years ago. So it's really important. And also, on another note, we have 100% 5-star rating on Google. 100%.
Wow.
Because if anything goes wrong, or say for example a seam comes undone or something like that, we'll say that shouldn't have happened, it's only 3 months old. Keep that and sew it, and you wear it for dog walking. We'll send you a new one. So we put it, I learnt that in business, put it spectacularly right. But it's very often, very infrequently things go wrong. But I think it's really important that people know that they've got a garment for life. And if not, we will sort it out, really. That's
incredible. That's really, really kind of, an awesome kind of mission to be on. I love that kind of get it. What was the phrase? Get it spectacularly right.
Yeah, spectacularly right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's a great way to put it. I love it. So when you think about the fashion world generally, as we just talked about, I see a lot of for want of a better word, greenwashing, I suppose, out there in the kind of wider world, the big brands and so on. There's a lot of the word vegan being thrown around within the high street chains and so on. And often, I mean, you mentioned there trying to eliminate microplastics and so on out of your range completely. There's a lot of the big brands that would probably lean into that kind of thing as like, well, it's cheap, we can slap the word vegan on it, that's not policed properly anyway, so on and so forth. How do folks go about navigating that? From your wider experience, what advice would you give to the kind of consumer in navigating this kind of world where there's an increasing amount of greenwashing?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people say to me, what makes vegan clothing? And like, as we know, a lot of clothing can be vegan anyway. Our thing is that we want the logo to spark a conversation. That's why ours is, we have the vegan logo on it. A lot of clothing is vegan anyway. I'm massively big on, charity shops. If you can upcycle and don't buy new, then do that. Don't buy from us, but, gift to someone else, let's reduce consumption. But if you need things, buy ethically. The problem is a lot of the vegan stuff is, it is fast fashion, so then you're looking at your supply chain isn't vegan. So going back to it, veganism isn't just about, animals, it's about the people, it's about the world. So if you're looking at, something like a pair of shoes made for 20 quid, you can't make a pair of shoes for 20 quid. That's just not possible. So although it's vegan, is it ethical? And this is where it, it is vegan because there's no animal products and there's no animal glue, but is it ethical? And this, like you said, there's a dilemma. So it might be vegan, but it's not ethical. So we don't like the idea of fast fashion. That's why we hope if someone buys one hoodie from us and it lasts 5 years, we've done our job, But yeah, I think there are a lot of brands jumping on it, and I'm also quite glad they're jumping on it. For example, like New Look have got a whole vegan range that they're doing. Fantastic that you're doing something that doesn't involve animal products. I actually applaud that. I applaud anyone that's doing anything vegan. But at the same time, it is a bit like greenwashing because, they're still paying people obviously no money to get that product made for the money they're making it for. And I do think that we do need to look at the whole ethical process of how we make things, how we consume, how we make things, how we live our lives. Because it's everything's got to change. Everything's got to change. So I agree with you about greenwashing. Funny enough, actually, I got interviewed recently by a guy, and I thought he was a student at Manchester University, and he's not. He was actually a professor, and he was actually doing a study on. It was basically he lectures on retail brands, which I didn't know. But it was this whole story was crossing into activism and retail brands and everything. And he said a lot of actual vegan brands actually don't put that they're vegan, so because there's a negative association to it. And I was like, that was an interesting thought process, because for me that was the reason why I wanted to do it. To negate any negative associations to it, to show that we're not all hippies, to show that there's this modern side to fashion and life. And I don't like the word fashion, actually. Fashion I think means fleeting, but what I mean, don't you? Like a twist. Like we like to think that we're classic clothing with a twist sort of thing, but we're stuff that could last you 20 years. Like I'm going to send you a hoodie afterwards. We're going to make it like completely you. You can, but it's we've got to change, but when he said a lot of people aren't using the word vegan in their vegan fashion, I was like, that's a real shame, really. Or even in their messaging, they're shying away from it, because I think unless we discuss, then we won't change.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I think you see it a lot with in the kind of food space as well, don't you? Where there's a kind of move away in some respects from the word vegan, because it sort of has these connotations that non-vegan folks may not be comfortable with. And so I kind of get both arguments in a way. Like on one side, I think, it's great that if a non-vegan kind of feels comfortable going to Deliciously Ella's restaurant and is almost unaware that it's vegan until they have a conversation with maybe one of their sort of friends who's with them, and then find out it is, and then they sort of feel a bit more, there's a kind of gentle approach into it. But then on the other hand, I think we shouldn't shy away from the word vegan and discuss it and debate it and keep changing what it, it's not changing its definition, but sort of reaffirming its definition. Because I think, to the point about what is, if I go to New Look, that says the word vegan on it. What does that actually mean? What does that mean to New Look versus what does it mean to me? And am I comfortable with their definition? Yeah. I think we need to debate that. And if the word's not there, then it can be easy to not discuss that.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think I go back to the fact that when I went vegan, it was not for the animals. Now it is only for the animals. Like every minute of every waking day, I think, how can I help make change? I'm up early doing a video about vivisection. I'm up early trying to. We've got a big festival next year that's going to raise money for a sanctuary. But it's a chance for activists and vegans to come together to discuss how can we do more. How can we make change happen faster? I'm 58 now. Vivisection's got to end soon. I'm not going to live to like 200. Do you know what I mean? I've got to make this happen. But you're right about the vegan thing. It can be just a label, and it's a whole. It's in every fibre of your being, isn't it? I believe. It's almost like I call it like a surface vegan. I think I encounter some people, it's probably very contentious now, but I'm going to say it. I encounter people that are like what I call like surface vegans that just say they are, and it's because they don't eat meat. But then I'm thinking, well, get off your bum and do something. Like there are so many animal shelters, they're going through their really harsh period now. Don't just give money, go and see them, support them with the physical time, and I think that, I think there's a lot of surface vegans, and if all those vegans actually, and I hate to say it, my husband's one of them. My husband's one of these people that his view is that nothing's going to change, and I keep saying this in interviews, outing him, but he thinks nothing's going to change. He thinks I'm wasting my time, and I'm like, well, and he sits on the sofa, thinks, and rages at the world, but I'm like, well, I'm not sitting on the sofa raging at the world. I'm actually trying to change the world, whether I achieve it or not. Time will tell, but the point is I've got to try, and I think that for me is what veganism is wanting to do more, and I say to people now, whenever I get asked to do like a quick speech, it's always about activism, and it's always about people say, oh, I wish I could do more, I wish I could be more active, I wish I could be an activist like you, and I say, have you got a laptop? And they say yes. I say, right, while you're watching Coronation Street, 5 minutes, share petitions, share posts, share social media. Social media is a secret weapon. I say the definition of activism has changed. You can do so much by sitting on your sofa, sharing, writing to your MP. There's so much that people can do that you don't even need to get cold anymore. If you don't want to go outside, there's so much people can do. And I think that's for me is I wish people would probably like wake up just a bit more and just do a bit more.
Yeah, like you say, there's so many ways that you can do these things on your own terms. Like activism. I think in sort of the kind of the almost the if you showed the picture of next to the definition to folks, they view somebody doing street activism, or they see somebody at a march or a protest, and for some people, that may not be where they're at, emotionally or mentally or physically or whatever. Whereas I think there are so many different methods, like you say. I mean, I was brought. You just made me think about a simple one about plant-based treaty. They'll provide you with like a template letter you can send to your local council, and I did this on a whim, and then I was amazed at how many of them came back, and how many of the local council, and started asking questions about, well, we've never seen this before. What is it like? And that kind of thing, and it sparked a conversation that I wasn't expecting to be in, and it was literally 30 seconds of my time to hit send on a template email that was already done, and I just needed to fill in the email addresses. So there's so many ways we can show up now. I think it's kind of, you're so right. And to the point about, I get that sort of feeling of well, I'm not going to be able to make a change, but I think we're kind of, this is an incredibly cheesy way to put this, but I can't think of a better way to put it now, that everyone's sort of there doing their individual kind of snowflake type action, and collectively it makes the avalanche. I think we sometimes, like in our kind of very individualized world, we expect a superhero. We think, well, if you can't personally shift the needle on your own, then what's the point? And I think, well, we've lost that kind of idea of community. Actually, we'll all shift it together, and I might not even be able to see what the impact I'm having, if any, but collectively we'll have an impact. And I think you're so right for just looking for different avenues. That sense I really get from the way you show up is, where's the next avenue that I can show up in? Where can I turn up and make a positive impact? And I think that's, that to me is a life well lived. Why not? If you've got a choice of do that or don't do it, why not do it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, going back to the collaboration, so vivisection is it's not the only thing we do. We support sanctuaries and we do lots of stuff, but vivisection is probably the thing that we focus on, because that's what got me into activism. But we try and collaborate with other activism groups and in vivisection, and they don't want to. And I'm like, it makes sense to come together. It makes sense to come together. A group together is stronger. We've all got our different influences. Let's come together. Let's work together. And it isn't possible. So you're absolutely right about this snowflake thing. We're all individually trying to do something. Whereas if we all came together, we'd achieve so much more, so much quicker. But it's just, ego gets in the way, or, 100%. This is the way we've always done it, or whatever. But everyone's trying to do something, you know, like we look at, there's Vivisection Exposed that have been doing it a long time, and other groups. And what people say is like, yeah, but I don't like that. I'm like, I love anyone that's doing anything. Do you know what I mean? Anything, like you writing letters, plant-based treaty are awesome, you know. And we've got a new political party that's set up now, just aimed at getting people to go plant-based and aiming for a vegan future. They said that we're probably not going to get any seats, but we're going to get it on the table.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me actually of something. I had Dr. Alex Lockwood on a while back, and he was talking about the work he's been doing with the Vegan Society, and kind of essentially making like a ready-made set of policies that they could hand to a government and say, this is how you would do it. This is how you would change our current food system to a plant-based system. So, you know, rather than here's the problem, you know, the animal agriculture is this and this, it's here's the problem and here's the solution to it. There is actually a way forward. And I talked to him about disagreement, you know, said how challenging is it to sit around the table with, you know, conservative MPs and MPs that you don't necessarily have a common agreement with. And he said, you know, if we can find 80% of agreement, then we're on to a winner. If we completely polarize on 20%, so be it. But there's 80% of kind of common agreement in most subjects that we can find, and then we can work with that to overcome the rest of it. I think we've kind of, I don't want to say lost the art of that, but sort of forgotten the art of that, I think, in our kind of like social media world. Like going back to the very beginning of this conversation, talking about sound bites, we're so desperate to find the sound bite. And the soundbite is often has to draw attention. It has to get the algorithm's attention, you know. And so it's almost like such a diluted, simplified message. Then it causes conflict, and the algorithm loves the conflict. So we're in this perpetual kind of like cycle. And I think we can break that by just sort of, you know, whenever I have a conversation with somebody in person, funny enough, even if I completely disagree with them sort of politically and ethically, I can get along with them and we can find some common ground. But online, somehow, that's very difficult. So we have to sort of ask that question, well, why is that? And get more, I think, just get more face-to-face, get more in rooms, and be comfortable with the disagreement more. So, yeah, I love that point he made, you know, and it's sort of stuck with me. Can I find 80% agreement with you? And if the rest doesn't work out, fine. So,
he sounds amazing.
It's a good episode. It's well worth listening to. And he's got his own podcast as well, which is fantastic. Which isn't about veganism per se, but it's actually about like the patriarchy in architecture.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like how he's walking the streets of Newcastle and looking at all of that. So you can, like, it's like a sort of a great audio experience. You can kind of hear the streets and so on, and he's sort of giving you a guided tour, and he's saying, you know, that building was built by such and such, and it represents this, and this is how it was designed, and this, and so on and so forth. And you can see like these physical symbols of the patriarchy in our major cities.
Wow.
And it's just like mind-blowing. Very intelligent guy.
Oh my god, I'll have a look. I'll check it out straight away. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you.
Because I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called. Shift and Signal. That's what it's called. Shift and Signal by Dr. Alex Lockwood. So it's a short series. It's not like an ongoing podcast. It goes on forever. It's like, you know, he's a kind of university professor. So it's a thing. It's like an extended lecture, and it's done.
Amazing.
But well worth listening to, because these things are all interconnected in my view. So, you know, it's fascinating. Anyway, this is me waffling on.
No, I love it.
So, Lorri, it's been amazing chatting with you. Where would folks go to find out a bit more about Vegan Happy Clothing and your other work as well?
Yeah, so the website is veganhappyclothing.co.uk, and all our socials are at Vegan Happy Clothing. And Exposing Cruelty is exposingcruelty.com. And we've got something at the moment. We're trying to grow what we call our Beagle Rescue Army. So if anyone wants to sign up to help us with our Beagle Rescue Army, that would be great.
Amazing. Well, I'll pop links in the show notes as well, so folks can find them and get involved in that. I hope they do. And I look forward to chatting to the winners of your recent competition as well. That's going to be amazing too. So for listeners, look out for those upcoming podcasts after this one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.